Particularly since the release of the Mario movie, Princess Peach has shot to superstardom. She has always been an iconic member of the Mario supporting cast, but as the female lead of Nintendo's flagship series, she is a major draw now for young girls, a demographic Nintendo would like to seriously cultivate. However, the character has a problem, which is that while she has become a fairly important part of the films and she's long had a role in the games, she's never really succeeded in spinning off a game series in her own right. Without a series that really defines her, she's known most for her twin professions of monarch and hostage, as being an appendage to Mario rather than a character who works as a central play mechanic with her own games, even while Donkey Kong, Luigi, Wario, Yoshi, even Captain Toad have headlined successful ongoing game series. It's not that Princess Peach has been completely ignored, of course. McDonald's fans would have seen Princess Toadstool's Castle Run and LCD Watch game back in the 90s, but the more memorable Princess Peach title was 2006's Super Princess Peach for the Nintendo DS. Still, while that game was her solo debut, I question whether the core mechanics in which she deploys the emotions joy, rage, gloom, and calm to navigate courses is quite what Nintendo would want for the character these days for all sorts of reasons. Developers Toze and co-director Akio Imai went on to develop the legendary Starfy, but the company is more closely associated with their support work over recent years. Nintendo's own director on the project, Asuza Tajima, moved to Nintendo of America in an advertising role, and the lead producer, Hitoshi Yamagami, left Nintendo in 2020. The game received a fair but not spectacular slate of reviews, and all things considered, I don't think Nintendo will be in any rush to revive it, although I'm sure it will eventually reach Nintendo Switch Online. In 2024, though, Nintendo tried again for the crown of the Mushroom Kingdom with Princess Peach Showtime by Goodfeel. This title also received mixed reviews, but it's clearly aimed at a younger audience, and in this respect, it's difficult to know for sure how successful it was or wasn't in terms of what Nintendo are going for. It may be in the demographics Nintendo wanted, it did respectably, and 1.22 million sales in the first 10 days, and a nomination for the Game Awards as Best Family Game is nothing to be sniffed at. Still, the game didn't break the million threshold again, which means at maximum it sold in the 2 million range. Better than some Mario spin-offs such as Wario Land, but not the kind of numbers that make Showtime likely to become a fixed format, especially as Goodfeel are fairly keen to diversify in their activities. They also worked on Wario Land, Yoshi, and their own original titles in recent years. Still, it may be that if it appeals to casual players, it could continue to sell at a trickle for many years to come. But this is the main problem. Mario games are known for their gameplay, and Peach games just aren't really. They're known for the character. This is largely, I suspect, because the games were designed the opposite way round from most Nintendo titles. Generally, Nintendo starts with a core gameplay mechanic and then work backward to find a character that fits it. Even Bonanza, where there was some focus on creating a game around Donkey Kong specifically, started with the idea of the destruction-based voxel mechanics, which was then applied to Donkey Kong. We can also see the Mario family tree of games where spin-offs often branch off based on successful game mechanics from previous titles. Wario Land, Yoshi, and Captain Toad all began by spinning things off that were tried in the main game series. In the case of Luigi's Mansion, they wanted Luigi as the lead rather than Mario because Mario's bravery would undercut the spooky atmosphere. But obviously, this aside, Luigi is essentially just stepping in for another Mario game. Therefore, there are two options for Peach to break the big time. One is to find a new mechanic that works specifically for her, and the other is to retro-engineer a previous gameplay system. There are two gameplay styles that I do think are eminently ripe for spinning off in this way, as with Yoshi and Wario Land, these being Super Mario Sunshine, where in theory any character could don FLUDD and soak it up, and the spherical-based gameplay of Super Mario Galaxy. However, I'm not convinced that Peach is the perfect character for either of these. Rosalina, especially after her prominence in the second film, may be a more obvious lead for a Galaxy-based game, and I've mentioned before my feeling that the more energetic, sassy and sunny Daisy feels like a more obvious lead for a new version of Sunshine than the more elegant and reserved Peach. at a stretch, the more rhythm-based mechanics of some of the Wonder games could probably make a pretty cool Mario Brothers spin-off, but there's nothing in this gameplay that feels essential to Peach's individual personality either. It's not as clear a fit as Luigi, with Luigi's Mansion at least. Perhaps the best fit for her is to don Cappy and to have an Odyssey-like experience, especially with the character of Tiara or even another member of the hat species who resembles the Princess Peach crown. The difficulty with this is that the Cappy mechanic wasn't, like Flood or even the Spherical Worlds, a discrete type of gameplay, but more a method to incorporate a number of different and varied gameplay styles within the singular game. While with Rosalina it's obvious why she might lead a Galaxy game, and I think it's understandable how Daisy could come by Flood, it's a trickier one with Peach, and of course the huge number of new mechanics required to make an Odyssey-style game might be better off with Mario, where higher sales are more or less guaranteed. Still, a smaller scale version of Odyssey, recycling some of those captures, could be a good stopgap vehicle for an Odyssey title, and it might be a great new DLC for the title in fact. Although the game hasn't had DLC yet, and I doubt it will while the new 3D Mario is still imminently on the horizon, I could see Nintendo revisiting the game at some point this generation, perhaps with a Nintendo Switch 2 edition for the 45th anniversary, and a Princess Peach Plus game could be one way to do this. However, that's just looking through the lens of the core platform games, and while we've seen 2 attempts to do a platforming Peach, I wonder whether at heart she's just not enormously well suited to this kind of game, and trying to retrofit her into an action star is part of the problem. What other gameplay styles would suit Princess Peach then? Well, starting with existing Mario Universe content, the one that stands out to me is Paper Mario. The Paper Mario series has always sold decently but not spectacularly, and there's nothing that intrinsically means the lead character needs to be Mario, or at least not Mario on his own. Mario could still feature, but the more cerebral and slower paced gameplay might work well for Peach, and she has of course guest starred as a lead in individual sections of games before. I've mentioned previously my suspicion that there's a number of the Paper Mario the Origami King developers who seem to be missing from the Thousand Year Door, but looking again in the credits, it seems that the mystery project was probably not another Paper Mario, but rather Fire Emblem Shadows. For example, the Origami King event designer Daisuke Yasumatsu was in fact the project lead on Shadows. Still, it seems plausible that Paper Mario could either spin off a new RPG series or even be adapted into a Peach-led series, and the fact that new series producer Risa Tabata is female might give her a better instinct for appealing to younger girls if that's what Nintendo are going for. Then again, there's Square's Super Mario RPG, which of course featured Princess Peach as a lead playable character. Although there's been a new version of the game, the team behind it are specialists in remaking old games rather than bootstrapping new ones. But if Nintendo could commission a team in Square to create a spiritual sequel to Super Mario RPG, putting Peach in the lead, or at least as co-lead, in a Mario and Luigi style, could be interesting. Then there are other genres completely. Pocopia brought the beloved lifestyle sim, town-building, sandbox-style gameplay to the Pokemon universe, and while Nintendo has dabbled with this more extensively in other series such as Animal Crossing and Tomodachi Life, it could be something that might work for Peach. An entry-level game in this genre designed for younger children might work well. Plus, the lack of any style-savvy game for a significant period makes me wonder if they would try to cannibalize a similar fashion-focused mechanic into a new type of title, and Princess Peach might be a good icon for this, although the problem is that these games probably require more realism than the cast of weird and wonderful Mario characters might possess. Ultimately, it isn't essential that there's a major Peach game series, but I think as Nintendo do want to convert fans of their broader outreach content to their core hardware-software business, it will be something that Nintendo are going to need to get their heads around, and so I do expect a greater presence for Peach one way or another in the years to come, either in terms of her own games or being the lead alongside other characters in the years to come. At this point, I'd give the chances of another Princess Peach solo title before the end of 2028 at about 50%. Thanks, as ever, for watching, hyping, sharing and commenting. Particular thanks to the channel's Patreon backers, and I shall see you next time for another Nintendo Forecast.